Hello, and welcome back to the Nourish with Purpose podcast. It's Bailey, and happy Wednesday, or whenever you're listening to today's episode. Today, we are skipping right over the catch-up and jumping right in. Today, I am joined by Rayn. She is the founder of Coastline Color. She makes one-of-a-kind jewelry using seashells that are actually collected along the Florida coastline. She's going to share so much more about her story, starting her brand, and becoming an entrepreneur. So with that, let's welcome Rayn onto today's episode. Rayn, thank you so much for being here.
Oh my gosh, thank you for having me. I'm so excited.
I'm so excited to have you. You are like a ray of sunshine. And I was thinking before we started recording how crazy like social media is and how it makes the world feel so small because you can connect with people all over. It's just... Yeah, I knew as soon as I came across Coastline Color, I've been following it for so long. I'm like, this is beautiful jewelry. I need to talk to you and just learn more about your story and how you started your brand. So let's just start with that question. Like, I know that's a big question probably to answer, but how did you get into this? How did you get started creating jewelry, and what really inspired you to start?
Yeah, so Coastline Color started kind of in college. My sister, I have a little sister named Avery. She's like my best friend. And she and her friend actually collected shells and would make shell rings. And I thought they were so cute. And I was like, oh, I have to make these rings with you girls. So then I made some seashell rings for myself, came back to school, and all my friends were like, where is your ring from? And I was like, me and my sister, we made these rings. You girls have to come make rings with us. So then all my friends, we made these seashell rings and we'd wear them around campus, and everybody would always be like, oh, where'd you get your ring? And I was like, oh, I made it. That was kind of that. So fast forward to after college, I graduated from college, got married. I am originally from North Carolina, but went to school at Southeastern University in Lakeland, Florida. And when I got married, my husband and I moved to St. Pete, Florida. So new town, didn't know anybody. It's after college, so you're just supposed to know what you're going to do with your life. And I did not. I was like working at a coffee shop, trying to like get used to my new home, like settling into married life. And I was venting to a friend one day, just like, I just don't know what I want to do. And I went to school for organizational leadership, which is kind of like business management and psychology combined. So it was kind of like, I knew I wanted to do something in business, but I wasn't sure what. And my friend, Natalie, she was like, what about your seashell rings? And I was like, you think people would buy that? And she was like, they would buy it. And she really encouraged me to start it. And so I had so many shells from going to school in Florida, like a ridiculous amount of shells. I used to keep them in the center console of my car, and they would just pile up, and it just made me happy. So shells always just made me happy and always enjoyed collecting them. Anyways, I was like, okay, I'm going to try doing this jewelry. So I ended up like making a few pieces, starting the website, building the little brand. And I don't know why, the shock, like my jaw hit the floor when I got my like first order, because I was like, no way these people like want this jewelry I just made in my living room. Because we were living in like a tiny 1-bedroom apartment. I was making everything like in my living room, all just handmade, like from Michael's. And I was like, oh my gosh, people like want to buy this. And not only like did people want to buy it, it was like as my friends were wearing it, as like customers were wearing it, it always got like, oh, where's your jewelry from? Where's your jewelry from? Where's your jewelry from? So that's kind of how it started. And then from there, like it just grew. So awesome.
And you went to college in the best location too. Like, you know, you think about being in Florida, like I could imagine the interest was just crazy with having seashells that were collected along the shore of Florida. Like who wouldn't want to wear that jewelry around?
Yeah, because if you think about it, like a lot of people love collecting shells, but they just collect, like you just collect them in piles. So having a way to like display this thing you worked hard to collect, I think people really love that.
Yeah. So when did you transition from doing rings to doing necklaces?
So right actually at the beginning, I did rings, necklaces, and earrings. That was kind of what I started with. And everything, it was kind of a slow burn for a while. Everything just started improving. So it was like the necklace chains would turn. And then I was like, okay, maybe I need to get better necklace chains. And then I would get better necklace chains. And then the earrings would break and I would be like, okay, now I need better earrings. And it was just kind of like it slowly turned into that. When I first started, I tried to do t-shirts and tote bags, which were really fun, but it felt like people just wanted the jewelry. And so I was like, okay, like we're going to pivot from that and just do the jewelry. So that was kind of an interesting learning curve for me because I thought, oh, people love t-shirts, but it's like sometimes when you start with the thing and it's good, like you should just kind of pour into that.
Yeah, and I think that's such a lesson to learn too of like pivoting and doing what people are actually like interested in, which I think is
Mm-hmm.
also hard too, because I'm sure like creating tote bags and t-shirts, like that's a fun process too, because you get to be creative in that way and like designing what you want that to look like, but also, like you said, knowing what people want and then really pouring your time into that and getting like the highest quality that you can of those products to make the jewelry.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So when you were like in college, kind of fresh out of college, talk a little bit about that experience of like navigating what you wanted to do. Because I think a lot of people that listen are stuck in that phase of like, okay, I went to college, I got a degree, I'm out of college, and I don't really know what it is I want to do, or it feels like, I don't know, just a far stretch to like really pursue their own job, right? And like start their own business. So walk me through that process or what that experience is
Right.
like.
I think that is it can be such a hard time in life, like a great time because it feels like the world is open to you. But I feel like for me personally, that was a hard time because it was coming out of COVID. So I graduated and got married all in 2020, was living with my family in North Carolina, then moved back, which I went to college in Florida. But for me, it was just like, oh, wait, now I'm living in Florida away from my family. And I don't know if I signed up for that. Like I was really missing them and being like, okay, this new life, like it's not 4 years here. It's like however long here. And it was just like processing that. But I would say like back to the point about the business, being willing to pivot of what you think that you were going to do. And also like not being afraid to try things and not being down on yourself for where you started. So when I started Coastline Color, I was working at a coffee shop and then the coffee shop wasn't paying the bills. So then I was a full time nanny. And that was not what I expected to do after college, even though I loved it. But then it's like Coastline Color started to grow, and then I was able to do that full time. But I also think like finding things that you enjoy is really important. And also asking for help, like asking friends' opinions and family's opinions. Like it feels so much pressure to decide what you want to do and what your dreams are. But sometimes the people in your life know you best of being like it took Natalie being like, oh, you were really good at this thing that I didn't really think about at all. So sometimes somebody in your life could come in and speak to like, oh, wow, you would be a great podcast host. You would be a great teacher. You would be great. Like listen to those people in your life and kind of be willing to pivot. Another thing that I came out of college thinking I was going to do was start a coffee shop. And then, that didn't happen and that's okay. But that was like a road I was going down that kind of also led me to jewelry. So also just be willing to be flexible.
Yeah, you saying that, I feel like that's so relatable because my dream coming out of college was like I wanted to have like a wellness focused coffee shop that had exercise room and have trainers in there and like I was on the same route of like, okay, I really want to start a coffee shop because I think there's also something so precious about that like gap between not even a gap because not that you have to have things figured out the summer after you graduate, but that space where like you're kind of in the unknown. And I think back to when I was in that phase and there was so much anxiety around it. But looking back, it's like I wish I would have just enjoyed that time discovering what it was I wanted to pursue. And finding jobs that maybe they don't pay the bills, but you love them, like working at a coffee shop. Like that's something I still do now because I love doing it. Like it brings me so much joy. It's so fun. And so also having things that yeah, you can pursue while you're navigating, or just like work at, I guess, while you're navigating what maybe you want to do more long term too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I know. So kind of coming back to then Coastline Color, have you always thought that you would start your own business, kind of having that like entrepreneurial spirit?
I would say I don't know if I always had an entrepreneurial spirit. I will say I'm a firstborn of four. So definitely like leadership was kind of in my blood, I would say. Had a lot of leadership roles in my life, whether it was like in ministry or with my family, or sometimes I always ended up being like the oldest person in my friend group, just like a very mothering, leadering personality, I guess you could say. So when I went to college and studied organizational leadership, that's kind of where I was like, oh, I would like to run a business. Like that's kind of when that dream started. And then I thought it was coffee shop, and lo and behold, it was jewelry.
Yeah, I know. Being a firstborn, I feel like sometimes it's like put on you that you kind of have to be the leader, even in moments where you're like, I don't know if this is really cut out for, like, if I'm cut out for this. But I think too, like, even hearing that process, like, it also created such like a, I don't know, kind of like paved the way for you too. Like when you went to college, you're like, I do this, I'm a leader, and this is what I love to do. And then you got into that, and then now again, of course, it's led you to what you're doing now.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So talk me through how you do like the visionary piece of creating jewelry because I think that's so interesting. Like, how do you gain inspiration from that? How do you decide what's going to go well together? What's your process look like?
I feel like my process maybe has changed a little bit over the years. Sometimes I let the shells speak to me. So it's a very niche market, I guess you could say, or business, because every single seashell is unique and different. So sometimes finding them the same size or the same color, or there's certain things like you go out and you look for shells and you get what you get. So sometimes, depending on whatever that batch was, it would make way for new products. So, for example, one time I went out and I found like super tiny, tiny, tiny seashells, and they were so cute and full, like had their wings, had everything. And I was like, how can I use this? And that's what started those resin rings where it's like a gold ring with the seashell in it. But it's like that came from finding a shell. So that was kind of, sometimes it's that, like, how can I use these shells? Getting inspired by jewelry, but other times it's just my friends. Like, what are you guys wearing? What's popular right now? I feel like that happened a lot with the charm necklaces that we just did. I'm a very simple girl, simple jewelry girl, just simple in a lot of ways, which is not bad. But I feel like charms not necessarily something I would have went towards, but it's really popular right now. Everybody's loving it. And then creating the charm necklace ended up being so much fun for me. So I was like, okay, this is what's popular. It took me months actually to like design the charm necklace and get it how I wanted. And lots of input from my friends, like group messages, like, what do you guys think of this? No, too small. What do you guys think of this? No, too big. So it was just like collaboration also sometimes gets inspiration, but I feel like that's kind of how it goes.
Yeah, it's so fun that you have like a supportive group of friends where like although you're working by yourself doing your own thing, you also have a group of people that are like you said, you're drawing inspiration from. They're keeping you up on the trends with jewelry and helping with the whole design process. That sounds really neat to like have that type of community to support what you're doing too.
Absolutely. I think that one of the most valuable lessons that you can learn in life, one is to be a good friend, but sometimes like part of friendship is celebrating your friends' wins. And also, like I always tell my sister this, I'm like, if you can learn this lesson young, my sister and I are 9 years apart. So we have like a lot of those talks sometimes. But I'm like, if you can learn this lesson that I wish I would have learned younger, is like how to be happy and support your friends when they're exactly where you want to be, whether that's success or they have the thing you want, or they're at the stage of life that you want to be at, but you guys are close friends. I don't know if that makes sense, but you have to celebrate them, even if it's something that you are wanting. And so a lot of the friends in my friend group have businesses. They're very successful. They were, moved to places I wanted to be, all those things. But it's like we are all able to celebrate each other and celebrate each other's wins. And I feel like that's really important. And it makes collaboration fun because it's like nobody is trying to compete. We're all just like trying to help each other succeed and like rooting for each other. So I think that's really important.
Yeah, I'm so glad you shared that because I think that's where you also understand like if you have the right friends as well. Like if you start your own thing and you notice like you can support them, they support you, and it's like that true friendship of feeling supported and not feeling like you're competing, I feel like those are the right people to surround yourself with. And
Hmm.
also, like, finding those friends can be a challenge. So, how did you find friends that support, you support them, they support you, just like those really solid relationships?
I would say some friends come at different seasons of life. So my best friend Natalie and I have been friends since I was like 7 years old. So we grew up together. We're like blood sister friends. That friendship kind of came over like years and years of just building. And the other really close friends I have, I met in college. And then after college, I met one of my really good friends who's my neighbor. But I feel like what all of my friends have in common is they all love God and they put Jesus first in their life. And they are very, I would say, sure of who they are because of who they are in Jesus, which is, not everybody has that. So if you're secure in who you are, it's easier to celebrate who someone else is because you know who you are. And that's obviously a process. It's not something that comes, right away. But I feel like when you meet a girl who is actively kind of pursuing that, like working on themselves, be sure in who they are, they can support who you are. It kind of just works. And I also feel like to find good friends, you have to first be a good friend and learn like what that looks like. And I've just been really blessed to have good friends in my life since I was young, if that makes sense. So, and I know not everybody has that.
Yeah, I know. And then you even, if I think back to friendships in college too, like you can see the ones that didn't hold. And you can see, like you said, of like knowing who they were and also pursuing that relationship with the Lord, like that is such like a valuable piece of just growing, I think, and maturing as an individual too. Like to be a good friend, you also have to feel kind of assured of yourself and confident in yourself and kind of your purpose. And I always say like your purpose isn't to have a specific job or occupation, but to like have the characteristics that make you a good friend or make you a good business owner or make you compassionate, for other people. And I think that's just like, yeah, when you're able to find those people and being in different seasons too. Like you said, in college you had friends, but growing up you had friends. And then sometimes like those friend groups kind of merge. And that's also kind of a beautiful process too of like, oh my gosh, like friends from childhood and friends from outside of college, like they get along. And I think that too is just like the coolest blend to see.
I also feel like too, one more thing about friendships. Sometimes one of the hard things, especially about being a girl, is when you lose a friend, whether it be like a bad ending of friendship or like you just grow apart. And I think I've been in a lot of different seasons of life where I was doing something for a short period of time and I made a really close friend when I was there. And then you leave that situation and you feel really guilty for not keeping up with that friend. But I think sometimes that is something that's actually okay. And God brought those friends into your life when you needed them. And it's okay to value and cherish that friendship for the season it was. And it's okay that maybe you didn't keep up with that friend later on in life. Because I mean, even Jesus had 12 disciples. Like it was 12 people in his core group. And then he was a friend to everyone, of course. But sometimes it's okay to have your close friends, have friends that you used to be friends with, have friends you're are more like acquaintances. Like it's okay to have different types of friends. And I feel like sometimes as girls, we're taught that that's not okay and you shouldn't. You should keep up with everybody and should always be nice and you should always be a good friend. And it's like sometimes that's not possible, but it was designed to be that way.
Yeah. Oh, that's such a good point. I'm so glad you brought up the topic of friendship too, because like you just saying that, also reflecting on like the multiple jobs I had when I got out of college, like I could pick out one to two people in each of those environments that like taught me something, I learned something from them, and although we're not like hanging out every single day of the week, like we still support each other in whatever we're pursuing, and like you just have that relationship. And you'll always have that relationship, even though, like you said, it's maybe not the closest friend you have. They were there for that season, and like you can be a friend to them and support them. But you also will, meet new people in the future, and like I feel like that cycle just continues to happen throughout different stages too. Yeah. Okay, so kind of coming back to Coastline Color, what would you recommend or say to somebody that's looking to start their own business, maybe even like fresh out of college? I know for you it was kind of a gradual process of getting started, but maybe after everything you've learned so far, what would you recommend to somebody that's looking to get into that?
I would say the biggest lesson that I learned is that hard things are only hard until they're over. And what I mean by that is like, I was like, I'm just a girl. I can't really own a business because I don't know how to do taxes. And it's like, that was such a struggle for me where I was just like, no, really, like, how am I going to do taxes? The government is going to come for me, and I don't know how to create an LLC, and I don't know how to do all these things. And it just felt so overwhelming. And it was very hard. But it was just like, once I sat down, I did the research. It took me a while. I figured out how to make the LLC. And then that was one hard thing done. And then it's like the more small, hard things that you do, it gives you like a confidence boost. Like, okay, I can do hard things. Okay, if I can create an LLC, then maybe I can pay sales tax. Like, and then I ended up having my aunt help me with my sales tax. She stayed on the phone for me with like for 3 hours. She stayed on the phone with me helping doing sales tax. And it was just like having help from people, also doing it myself, taking the time to learn those things. But now it's like, I'm almost more proud that I know how to do taxes than like starting a business, if that makes sense. So another thing, a practical thing I would say that always has helped me in my life is writing a very, very long, detailed to-do list. For example, like whenever I was writing an essay in college, I wouldn't just like put essay, checkbox. I would put like, write the first paragraph, checkbox. Write the conclusion, checkbox. Like edit your paper, checkbox. And then it almost feels like you're being more accomplished. It like tricks your brain when you're writing these long, specific to-do lists. You're like, wow, I'm just getting so much done. But really, it's like, it's just writing the essay, but you feel like you're doing a lot more. So that's another thing I would say to anyone that's wanting to get started is like write a long, detailed research LLC. Figure out how to put your name in LLC format. Like that is kind of where I would start.
Oh my gosh, that's so relatable. Are you very type A? Because I feel like that's a very type A thing to do, of like get very granular and like just so you can really have a lot of things to check off.
Yes, I feel like maybe.
Yes. Oh my gosh, no, I love that. And I think the thing about starting a business too, like you said, is like we kind of expect maybe from an outside perspective to look at somebody who started a business and they're like, oh, they really have everything together. Like they're so put together, their business is perfect, they must be thriving. And that's not to say they're not, but like all of the things like how do I start an LLC? Like what about paying taxes? Like I still feel like I know nothing about taxes. And so it's like okay, like maybe that's a part where I need to like improve, but it's also like I'm still doing what I wanted to do and I've always wanted to do, even though I don't have everything like completely perfected in my business. Like I think the act of just getting started is like the probably the hardest step. And just like
Yes.
fabricating in your mind, like, I don't know if I can do that. All those doubts come up, and our minds want to make something seem so scary and so intimidating until, like you said, you write a detailed list and you're like, I'm going to take this in bite sized pieces and we're just going to work through it day by day and have no pressure around how fast that this becomes something or doesn't.
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh my gosh. Okay, cool. So then with Coastline Color, where do you see it going in the next like 5 to 10 years? Do you have any like ideas that come to mind? Are you working on anything that you'd be willing to share? What do you see?
I feel like this question is always scary for me because I'm a little bit like and where the wind blows type of person. And sometimes I don't like to put that pressure like
Mhm.
5 to 10 years. It's a lot of pressure, but it's not. It's a good question because it's good to have goals. My word for the year this year is actually discipline because I think that it's really important. And like self-discipline is honestly a fruit of the spirit in the Bible. So it's really important to like set goals for yourself and accomplish goals. Whereas before, I feel like my personality can be like, how about loose intentions? Like, what about a loose intention? Does that kind of count as a goal? And it's like, sometimes it's good to have a loose intention and it's also good to have goals that you can achieve and that you like believe in yourself that you can do them. All that to say, I haven't thought too much about it because I've been thinking a little bit more about babies and family life. But when I do think about it, I, of course, would love it to grow. Maybe bringing more people along. We have hired 2 people in the last year, and that's just so fun. Like now we're a team of people as opposed to just me. It might be fun to have like a little coastline warehouse. And by warehouse, I mean like sunroom with jewelry and just like a place to pack, kind of like this, but maybe bigger. But honestly, I will just see where it goes. Nothing too big on the agenda.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, that type of warehouse sounds right up my alley. Like, I don't need to be in a dark dungeon of a warehouse, like you said, a sunroom, get that natural light, package things. Like, yeah, I mean, those, and
Plants.
yes, exactly. Like life, we've got plants around, we've got, I know, I know. Oh my gosh. Well, I'm so excited to see where it goes. I seriously going to get off of this call and order a necklace. Well, no, you do drops. How does that work actually? I wanted to ask like about the logistical side of things. If people want to order, because I've been eyeing things for so long and I've just been like waiting for drops, but I feel like I don't maybe know the correct timing.
Yes. So within the last year, we've actually got a system down. So it's much easier, but it's still a little bit tricky. So we restock the first Friday of every month at 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. What is happening in that month? Sometimes we do have stuff still available on the website. If it's spring and summer, sometimes we have not a lot of stuff available on the website. White seashells are extremely rare and everybody wants them, which is, of course, white goes with everything. White is gorgeous, but it's very hard to find. So sometimes like our white will sell out quickly, but it's because we didn't have that many white shells. We are also working with everything we collect that month. So we collect the shells. We have to clean the shells, prep the shells, sort the shells. We sell a lot of things by color. So all of this it's about a 4-week process, 3 to 4 weeks. So by the time the next drop comes, we're ready. But basically it's like we gather shells, we make, we restock, we do it all over again. So if you're wondering why things go out of stock or why the white is never there, that's why. That's kind of how it works.
Yeah, but I love to hear that process too because, and honestly, just talking to you, like getting to know the person who's created these systems, right, and is creating the jewelry. Like I think that's the most special part about connecting with smaller businesses and having an understanding of like things aren't always available, but like they're working hard to, like you said, collect shells, and you said that's a 4-week process of like the whole system, and that I'm sure is so tedious. And so also it's like that anticipation of like waiting for things to drop. Like I'm so excited. Like that's just so neat that you like also kind of build up the anticipation for the drop and then you sell what you sell and then like you said you maybe have things left over but you're really just able to create excitement around each launch too each month.
Yeah, it is a lot of fun, and it's fun to see people excited about the restocks. And also, I just love the business. I love that seashells are one and one. It blows my mind every time. Like you're like, oh yeah, every seashell is unique, but like when you really grasp that concept, every seashell is unique. It's just amazing, and it's amazing that we can have this business where it's like you're really getting a one of one product. Like nobody has the shell. The shell has never been before and like will never be again. So it's kind of cool. And it goes along with kind of the mission behind our brand, is that, people are like seashells. We're one of one. And I really love that verse, Psalm 139:14. It says, I'm praise you because I'm fearfully and wonderfully made. Your works are wonderful. I know that full well. And I really want the heart behind Coastline Color. It's like when you get this seashell jewelry, when you have this one of a kind piece, like just be reminded that you're one of a kind and celebrate that. And I feel like I have this saying on our website, but it's like just as seashells color the coastline, like we color the earth. And I think God made us beautiful to add color to the world. And that's just awesome.
Yeah, yeah. And yeah, it's like thinking of each seashell being so unique. It's like almost when you think about how many people are actually on the planet and how everybody is so different, like it blows your mind. And like even the fact that I know you sell like pairs of earrings, like it blows my mind when I look at the earrings. I'm like, they look nearly identical. Like they're more like sisters, not twins. That's kind of like I feel like the saying, like they look like sisters, not twins, but they're so cohesive. Like it's incredible that although yes, there's so much variety, you're also able to like beautifully craft necklaces that like go with each other and the colors match so well and even the pattern on the shell matches so well. Like you just are so intentional with what you create.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
I feel like that's a cool tie-in too to what we were talking about friendship. It's like you can also find the people that match your colors. There's lots of different colored people in the world, but spots like you, or like speckles like you, or is pure colored like you are. So I don't know. There's your people out there too.
Yeah, yeah, I love that tie-in. So then how do you fill your cup outside of work? What are some things that just like rejuvenate you and make you excited to work whenever you do? Like you just always maybe feel recharged when you come back to your work.
I love being with my family, my personal family. I love my son Coda and my husband Trent. We have a lot of fun together. One of my favorite traditions that we have as a family is on Saturday mornings we go to coffee shops, and sometimes we try new ones. Sometimes we go to our favorite one. But that's kind of like our family time that I really enjoy. So I do that. I love going to see my family in North Carolina. Like I said, I have 3 siblings. I'm really close to my mom and dad, and my husband's family too. Love my husband's family. They are an hour and a half away from us, so we get to see them a lot, which is awesome. And I like being with my friends. I love going to the beach with my friends, and yeah, just hanging out. I feel like the beach is a good recharge as well. It's just like, I think the ocean is just good for your soul if you're having a bad day.
Yeah, it's so therapeutic. That's like something even which like I mentioned we're in Nebraska so like not a lot of moving bodies of water, but even just like I don't know, the act of being around bodies of water, like it's so refreshing and the sound of the ocean, like it's just like a rejuvenating. And I don't know what the statistic or the scientific connection is, but I know like there is something about being around the ocean that just like lowers your blood pressure because of just the sound and the whole experience too.
Mm-hmm. Nature's sound machine.
Oh my gosh, I know, I know. And even like tying in the coffee shop, like that's what you and your husband and Coda do on the weekend is like you go to a coffee shop. And so kind of tying that back in of maybe you don't own your own coffee shop, but you're still like in that environment and you're connecting with people while you're there. And like, I don't know, I just think, and it maybe is, I don't know, not everybody might feel this way, but there's something about a coffee shop that is just so can be so comforting and so it's like such a connecting space that I've noticed like people that work in coffee shops like it pops up in their life like multiple times. You know, just because they feel such a connection to people while they're there.
That's very true. That's a good point. I feel like it is a very calming environment, especially when you love it. It just brings so much joy.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, well, let's finish with the question that I ask everybody on the podcast. So, on the podcast, we typically talk about our purpose and how that's not linked to necessarily to a specific job or role, but rather it's those characteristics that you possess that allow you to live a meaningful life. So, Rain, what would you say is your purpose?
I would say that my sole purpose in life is to love God and to love people, love the people that He created. And I think that everything I do, I try to go back to that purpose. Now, sometimes I get off track because I'm not perfect. But I think whenever I am off track, I try to reroute myself like, okay, how can I in this situation love God and love people? So with Coastline Color, I love what you said. It's your purpose is not what you're doing or your job. It's like who you are in those situations. I like what you said earlier about your characteristics. And I think that's really true. Like what kind of business owner am I going to be that loves God and loves people? And I create jewelry that brings people joy and I have people in mind. And, I want to give glory to God because without Him, there would be no business. And I truly believe that with my whole heart. I'm not special. He did make me very special and I have lots of good gifts that He gave me, but it's because of Him that my gifts, can reach people. And I really think that's true. So I would say that's my purpose in life.
Yeah, that is just the best answer. And I think just seeing and hearing the intention that you have behind what you're doing, because you genuinely just love what you're doing and the whole like collecting the shells, like that whole process. Like it just sounds like you really like appreciate each stage that your business is in, and how you're able to really be intentional with what you're doing. So that is just like the best answer to that question. Oh my
Oh,
gosh. Well,
thank you.
share your socials. Where can people find you and get connected with you?
Yes, so you can find Coastline Color on Instagram and TikTok, I think, at coastline.color. And you can find me personally on Instagram, and my handle is Hey Rayn, but Hey is spelled Hay as a nod to my Southern roots.
I love I love it. And I will have that all linked in the description of today's episode so they can get connected with you and also just get in the know about when you're dropping more jewelry because after this episode, I'm sure everybody's going to want to get on and order something. At least I know I am. I'm like, I have been eyeing this for way too long to not make the purchase. So, Rayn, thank you so much for being here and just sharing your story.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. This was such a dream come true. I'm a podcast girly, so I was like, oh, to be on the podcast? Yes, would love that.
Oh my gosh, I know. I couldn't agree more. So thank you. All right, before you go, I wanted to go ahead and close today's episode in prayer. So, dear Lord, thank you so much for today. Thank you for the sun that's shining. Thank you for people who feel so warm and inviting. Thank you for Rayn and her willingness to get on today's episode and just talk about her experience starting her own business and also her faith and just her stories about friendships, and that I really just hope that her story helps to encourage and inspire somebody to start their own brand, their own company, if that's something that they truly want to do and pursue. I also just want to pray over the safety and the excitement that comes with summer and these warmer months. I pray that MF would have a fulfilling summer, maybe step away from work and really just enjoy the season that we're in. I also pray for KS and her sister and whatever it is that she's going through right now, that she just feels comforted by you through every season. I also pray for B and that her nephew is able to thrive and in whatever capacity and intention you have set out for him, that he is able to just feel like he's able to focus so much attention on that while not losing sight of you and the purpose you've created for him. Lastly, I pray for B and that she is able to stay on track with recovery right now. And I also just want to pray over anyone who is in a season where they are really working to heal their body. I pray that they find that healing and that they fall in love with the journey of taking care of themselves, taking care of their body, and also, of course, nourishing that spirit and finding so much joy in fulfillment and in growing their relationship with you, but also growing in how they have maybe historically learned how to take care of their body and being willing to adapt and change and pursue something that maybe is a little bit intimidating, but that they know will benefit their health. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. All right. So if you're interested in following along with my life outside of the podcast, you can find me at Nourish with Bailey on Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, pretty much anywhere. And if you can't find me at that handle, you can also find me at Bailey Seaton on Facebook. My email is also in the description of today's episode, so please never hesitate to reach out to me if you have any questions regarding your health, you need somebody just to talk to and get advice from, or to really just have support you along your journey. I'm always here and want you to always know that. All right, so with that, I will talk to you again next Wednesday. Bye.